I think the most important thing we do in society is take care of our kids.
It's a village people. But there's people that live in the village of Covington that don't have the village that your daughters have. Like they don't have the relational sinew and connections and support like that. And if it takes a village to raise a child, your daughters had the experience of being in a relational village. In so many ways, the mentoring partnership is meant to reestablish the village, to draw in healthy adults, to see with their mind's eye the kid out there that's waiting for them and going towards them relationally to build those relational connections so that we can, as a county, pocket by pocket, relationship by relationship, like reestablish the village that a kid needs.
It's the root of what's driving us to do this work is a love for children, and the unconditional love is what I was getting at earlier, this idea that kids deserve that because they're children, period. Like they don't earn it, they didn't get rewarded with the love of adults, but that they deserve it because they're children. Because I'll tell you, I'm not sure the children are well. I think we have work to do there. Being able to empower people to form these relationships is a critical role for all of us in leadership. You don't have to be an expert in anything to be able to be a positive person in the life of a child. You really need to be willing to dedicate time. I think it's our most valuable resource. It's probably our most prized is being able to dedicate your time and energy for others. And so I think the mentoring partnership provides that. And I really encourage anybody who listens to this to explore opportunities to plug in and find the way that they can connect with kids in our community.
Who was the mentor in your life who made all the difference? Or maybe you didn't have one. Who did you need back then? Welcome to the Mentoring Partnership of Miami County podcast, where we shine a light on those walking alongside kids with harder stories here in our community. If you want to show up for a kid from a hard place, complete the no commitment form in the description and we'll guide you down the path that best fits you. Now join us as we explore the transformative power of showing up and how becoming the person you needed can change a child's life, and maybe even your own. Hey listener, at the top, we just need to share with you that the conversation that you're about to listen to with Dave Larson just went so deep and so wide that for the first time we had to break up a podcast into part 1 and part 2. And we're privileged to do so. So thanks for listening and look forward to hearing from you and enjoy this conversation. We are here today with Dave Larson. He is the superintendent of the Educational Service Center in Miami County, and he has been with the Mentoring Partnership of Miami County since the beginning. We became friends just thinking about how do we care for kids that are already in school, helping them connect at a more deeper level, peer-to-peer or teacher-to-student or mentor-to-student. And before we get into explaining a little bit more about your role as a board member and others, this mission, why have you shown up and continued to show up? Like, why does this matter to you?
I think the most important thing we do in society is take care of our kids. I've been really blessed throughout my life with a family who has loved me and extended family members who I've been close to. And I've had great teachers and coaches. And it's easy to feel like and assume that every kid has that experience. And in my 20 plus years in education, I've interacted with a lot of kids who don't have that. And we have a real opportunity as members of this community in Miami County to look for opportunities to engage with kids and to become important people in the lives of kids. I've seen it in classrooms, and I've seen it in athletic experiences where I've seen kids whose lives have been turned around because they had a positive adult who took interest in them and genuinely wanted to make their lives better. And with that being said, I also see a lot of kids out there who still lack that. And I think it's as hard as ever um, to be a kid right now. I think that our children face some challenges that I think are pretty unique to this time in time and place. A disconnection from people, from other meaningful relationships, and I see a lot of opportunity to really in an individual manner or through groups and clubs and organizations to reach out and love kids in a meaningful, intentional, and safe way.
I know that we've borrowed from each other the story of How Are the Children and used that in different contexts, and it feels pretty poignant to discuss maybe like how is that child? How does that child represent so many children? And you get the purview of knowing that statistically and personally. And so could you just expose that story and how it fits maybe our county?
Sure. So, gosh, it's been more years than I thought it was. Um, Back in 2019, um, my mom had a massive stroke and spent 6 months either in a hospital or a nursing home before she passed away. And I have 2 daughters. That's an important part of the story. I have
Mhm.
2 daughters who I like to think they have a pretty supportive family, with people who love them. But they endured a good amount of trauma during that time period. Um, you know, seeing what their grandma was going through, seeing what their parents were going through, and I realized how important it was that they were they had other adults in their lives who loved and cared for them. And I thought to myself, like, if that's what my kids are experiencing and need, who I think have a pretty strong network of adults around them, I think about the kids who don't have that support system in place, who are going through really hard situations. Um, so it really that time period to me really reminded me how important this work is. And as an educator who gets to work with other educators and gets to see all the schools in the county and what things are going on there, just really made me realize how much of an opportunity we have to be those people in the lives of children, be those safe, comforting, supportive people in the lives of these kids. I think that there's a lot of time in education where we focus on a lot of the things outside or in addition to really just taking care of kids. And I think that's a real common thing. We have an expectation that we're teaching practical skills, getting kids ready for careers, getting kids ready to succeed at the next level, all those kinds of things that become really important. And sometimes it's easy to forget that first and foremost, we have this opportunity to just care for kids, to give them unconditional love and support, appropriate affection, um, to model the type of healthy relationships that are necessary to be a healthy, well-balanced person. Um, I think every kid deserves that. We talk a lot about the importance of everybody remembering that every single day a child shows up at school, they deserve to be loved and cared for. Regardless of what they did the day before, regardless of what dumb thing they might have done on the bus ride, that every single kid needs that. And in schools, schools can certainly take for granted the opportunity that they have to provide that. So like I said, I think when I think about my own kiddos and what they needed during that time period in our lives, um, it's such a reminder to me that the community of loving adults that surround a child is so critical to their well-being.
Mhm. Yeah, I always appreciate how, as an educator, have spent so much time with children, and you get the purview of all these adults that spend so much time with children. And when we ask the question, like, how are the children? Some of the people that know that answer the most are teachers and coaches who are consistently there with their body and maybe their mind. And I would imagine that there's not a teacher that like went into school being like, man, I love English so much. I love math so much. I'm so excited to, maybe they are, maybe they like to teach and that's
Yeah.
their thing. But I would imagine that the heart behind it is like, I really care about these kids. I think that I could help them and care for them and be with them. And so, on behalf of teachers that are going through personal, systemic stressors, teaching for so long, I always had someone say, like, remember your first love, like, remember your why, and then develop a community of folks who are help you remember that why and be able to continue to be there and to pour into them. And I think I love that you're in the role that you're in because I think you really get that and you want all of these different districts from the highest level leader down to the entry level teacher to care about kids well together.
You know what? You know what no one has ever said? Man, that teacher loves kids too much.
Yeah.
You know, I've yet to ever hear anybody say that. I've yet to hear anybody say, you know what, that teacher cares too much for the kids that they work with. It's, and I think to a certain degree, one of the things that we can do in the education space and as education leaders is make sure that educators who work with kids, and I need to be really careful not just to say teachers because, you know,
Sure.
we have an organization with 400 employees and only maybe 25-30% of them are teachers. We hire a lot of paraprofessionals who talk about a group of people who whose hearts are driving their decisions because
Mm-hmm.
they're not doing it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it because it's an easy job. We have a lot of people who are doing really hard jobs because they love kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, making sure that the educators who get this opportunity to work with kids know that, you know, at the end of the day, did you care for kids enough? Did you love the kids enough? They're gonna learn about the War of 1812, hopefully, but there's a lot of other stuff that I think sometimes we need to make sure we give teachers the freedom to know, educators the freedom to know that that's their primary responsibility. The other part of that, I used to be kind of reluctant to use the term love children. That we need to show children love because it's like, well, is that an okay thing to say in the public education space, you know? And it's definitely the right thing to say. You know, it's the root of what's driving us to do this work is a love for children and the unconditional love. It's kind of what I was getting at earlier, this idea that kids deserve that because they're children, period. Like they don't earn it. They didn't get rewarded with the love of adults, but that they deserve it because they're children.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's a right.
Yeah.
It's a one of those inalienable rights that yeah, that children ought to be loved. Um And just to normalize that to any listener, shout out to Joel Manby, who wrote the book Love Works, that takes that same concept and puts it into the business world and says that there's all these different words and names for love. And if you peel back the layers of what it actually is, what love is that you say, I want what is what is good for you. I am here in my presence to give of what I have here, to give what I've been given to help you on your journey. Like that's just, you're just there. You're present and proximate, hour by hour, school year by school year, to show up to the next kiddo who needs you. To tease out that story in an African village, the standard greeting isn't, how are you? It's how are the children? And their response is always, and the children are well. The reason why is because they have such a proximity of relationships of the adults that the shared responsibility is towards the children. And so they know at that deepest level that the children are well, and they prioritize that the children are well because they believe that the strength of their society rests on the strength of how well their children are. That's an indicator of a healthy society. And it feels like to me, Dave, that your role as an actor, a part of the ESC, in your personal relationship with superintendent schools and beyond, and then your inclusion in the mentoring partnership is that you believe that so well is that we want to help as a county to focus on our kids to help them to be well. What are you hearing?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the drive behind my interest in mentoring partnership and wanting to be involved in our efforts there. Because I'll tell you, I'm not sure I'm not sure the children are well. I think that's the I think I think we have work to do there. Um, so I think being able to empower people to form these relationships is a critical role for all of us in leadership. And I think about that question, and I think like if if we went school by school and asked the leaders there, how are the children? Because I don't want to paint this picture that everything is dire. I don't think that's the case. I think we have a lot of happy, healthy kids out there. I know we do. Um, but we also have kids that are really, really struggling and kids that are really suffering. So being able to find opportunities for people to make these connections. So I think the one area that is really important is that we focus on the people who are already there. So teachers, principals, guidance counselors, paraprofessionals, related service providers. I could go on and on. These people who have this job embedded opportunity to care for kids and focus on what does that look like, and how do we foster meaningful relationships there. I think that's one part of this. um, and I think some of that's through education. I think we've done a lot with regards to informed education. um, I think we could do more, to focus on relationship building with kids. And I don't necessarily mean more that it's teachers sitting down in a room of professional development where somebody's up there teaching something. I think it's more about how we talk about it. And we celebrate that those meaningful relationships, and we create time for that. And I think that's one part of this. I think the other part of this, and this is where the mentoring partnership to me is so exciting, it's how we create opportunities for caring adults who don't have that as part of their job, who don't have the direct opportunity to impact the lives of kids every day because they're not fortunate enough to get paid to do it. How do we create opportunities for people to do that? And and I think the mentoring partnership is a great way for us to do that. I also think things, like coaching your kid's soccer team. And I coached soccer for 5 years. My daughter really likes soccer. Of course, they're always looking for people to coach. So I coached soccer for 5 years. I knew very, very little about soccer. Uh, I knew how to tie kids' shoes well, and that was an important part of being a soccer coach. Um, and I knew how to get kids' attention. And it was my last year coaching. That's a quick funny story. So I've been coaching for a number of years, and we were playing against a team who was pretty good. I think the other team's coach knew a little bit more about the rules of soccer and strategy, things like that. And our kids got called for some penalty, and I was calling out to the ref, and he thought I was upset. And he came over and maybe he was grabbing a yellow card. I don't know. I never got carded, so I think that was a good thing. But he came over
Sure.
and he was like, what do you need, coach? I said, I don't know what you just called. And he told me, and I said, yeah, I don't know what that is. And
Yeah.
he took our kids over and taught them what it was at that point in time. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, there are probably some parents who are a little frustrated with me, but there are these opportunities to show kids. And so you don't have to be an expert in anything to be able to be a positive person in the life of a child. You really need to be willing to dedicate time. I think it's our most valuable resource. It's probably our most prized is being able to dedicate your time and energy for others. And so I think the mentoring partnership provides that. And I really encourage anybody who listens to this to explore opportunities to plug in and find the way that they can connect with kids in our community. Um, Miami County is an interesting community, um, because there is a level of diversity that's pretty relevant with regards to kids' experiences. And I think it's pretty easy in Miami County to get insulated and not realize that there are some folks who are facing some real significant challenges. I don't want to misrepresent that kids from affluent families or middle class families don't need love and support from caring adults outside of the home too, because they do. Um, but we do have a lot of kids who face challenges, have barriers or have adversity that is really, really significant. And many times those are the children that need an adult in their life who's going to invest in them. And the mentoring partnership provides that opportunity to connect people to those kids that need that the most.
I've been always toying around with like what's the best verbiage in a way to like honor like whether it's a family that's struggling or a child or what have you. And so that's why I often say like kids from hard stories. And that's not to dishonor the parents. It's to say that like if you were to look at the life of a child and you were to recognize the hard things about their story, those hard things likely need healing. I believe that all hurt comes through relationship and all healing comes through relationship. And so to care for a kid from a hard place with a hard story means that you intersect with your most valuable commodity of time, where 90% of mentoring is showing up. And you're present, you're proximate, and you share with whatever time you have to say you are valuable and worthy of me being here because you are a child that deserves that. And I get the privilege of being with you as an adult.
I think to that point of that's why I started with the story about my own kids.
Mm-hmm.
We live in Covington, small town, small community. I go to church there. People know my family really, really well. Everybody knew what my kids were going through. And so there was this level of care that I think they got through school, through church, neighbors, friends, because they knew what they were going through. If we treat every kid that way, it's just I wonder what things could be like. I wonder what kind of opportunity we could create for children if we treated every kid like they were going through something hard. It's because you're right, because I think sometimes we dance around this a little bit because we're uncomfortable talking about the fact that we have kids that come from hard families. So I mean, statistics are there. We know what demographic information makes life more challenging. We know what living in poverty. We know what homelessness, how that impacts a child's life. I don't think we should avoid the that because we're uncomfortable talking about quote unquote, those kids. But I think if we take the approach of every kid needs this, and we are really intentional about where they're getting it, and work at it from that vantage point, there's a lot of potential there.
I think, pun intended, isn't Covington like a village? It's the village of Covington, right?
It's a village, yeah.
It's a village. Village people. The so the village of Covington, but there's people that live in Covington, that live in the village of Covington, that don't have the village that your daughters have. Like, they don't have the relational sinew and connections and support and things like that. And if it takes a village to raise a child, like your daughters had the experience of being in a relational village. And so in so many ways, the mentoring partnership is meant to reestablish the village. It's meant to like draw in healthy adults to go to see with their mind's eye and know that there's a kid out there that's waiting for them, and going towards them relationally to build those relational connections so that we can, as a county, pocket by pocket, relationship by relationship, like reestablish the village that a kid needs. One way that I try to interpret this is try to make it really individual. So let's say that a kid wakes up in a home and it's a harder story. They wake up in a home in a harder place. That's where they live. How do you love that home? You can love the parents and figure out ways to relationally love the parents. There's certain opportunities for that. Then the kids go to school, and they're at school throughout the day. So how do you love a child there? You love the teachers. What's another way to love the teachers? By loving the kids. So if a school opens up the doors and has a safe, appropriate, like vetting experience to allow for mentoring to happen during like lunch or a section or planning period, that relationship that comes into the school will help the teachers because it will help the child. And then if that kid leaves school, maybe they go home. You have to love the family. If they don't go home, maybe they go to a sport. Find good coaches, pour into good coaches, love good coaches. If they go to an after-school program, love the people that run that after-school program, and then maybe show up. Maybe be a part of the ratio of healthy adults to child in a rhythmic way so that they get to start to feel your presence and develop that relationship and be deployed there if you feel like that's the place that you are meant to be deployed. And then the last opportunity then is if a kid doesn't go to an after-school program, but a parent says, they raise their hand and they say, I am looking for a healthy adult for my child. And often that comes through the avenue of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, which our county forever has had a waiting list. And they say, will you spend like 4 hours a month, like twice a month, just like going and doing what they're interested in and pouring into them? Then that's like another opportunity to care for them. So all of these opportunities, if every adult figures out any kind of way with time, talent, or treasure, with time showing up to care for someone, talent, what are you good at? How do you like to play? How do you bring your joy into a relationship? That's part of your skill or talent, something to share. Or your treasure. If you feel like you don't have the time or talent, but you're gifted with, resources, then you leverage those resources to care for kids. Like, figure out a way to invest in the mentoring partnership to help it to be sustainable and grow. We all have resources. We don't have a resource problem. We have a connection problem. How can you, listener, take one small step in connecting to help the children be well? What are you hearing, Dave? Hey, listener, what do you think Dave is hearing? And what are you feeling? What did you hear? We want to know. Dave at the very beginning said that he believes the most important thing we can do as a society is take care of our kids. And if we do that, we know that the next 50 years, the next generations will be well because we are becoming the village that cares for our kids and for each other together. So we'll give you a quick preview of something that he shares, and we invite you to listen to part 2 and to go deeper into working together to make our county, our lives, our kids a better place to live in for all of us.
Sometimes I wonder what's keeping people from doing this. And sometimes there are logistical challenges. That's one of the reasons that I am glad I get to be a part of Mentoring Partnership, because I hope that I can help schools navigate that. I think sometimes people question their talents, question what they're bringing to the table. I go back to, we don't need perfect people.
If you want to explore how you can show up, fill out the no commitment form in the description of this episode, because only together can we help more kids find the support they need. And only together can we help more adults step into the story they were made for.